Hello, and welcome to the Uncensored Journey podcast, a raw, unfiltered guide to truths that matter. We're diving deep, getting real about what it takes to truly transform inside and out. Ready for truth? Ready for transformation? You're in the right spot. I'm Cyndee, and with me, as always, is Gabriela. Now, let's get uncensored. Hi, Gabriela.
Hi, Cyndee. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Rick. He also goes by the amazing Rick. Welcome, Rick.
Well, good day. Happy to be here with both of you today. Yeah, just a little bit about my background. I've had a multitude of things that I've learned in life. Previously, I was in the software engineering field and transitioned out of that into, well, all this other fun stuff, doing investment advising and having a coaching company. And now the coaching is adding to its skill set a training company. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today. I am a master practitioner and trainer of neuro-linguistic programming, mental and emotional release, and hypnosis. And I've been on this journey of transformation and personal growth and development for, depending where you put the stake, 20 years or 30 years. So it's been a while.
Just a couple years.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What was the most amazing nugget or piece of wisdom that you took from NLP per se?
Yeah. My wisdom comes from a variety of places. And in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, there's something called presuppositions. And by learning and understanding the presuppositions, it allows a person to see all the other people in their lives from a new set of lenses, if you will. Being able to, I don't know, grant people grace, grant people their humanity, and learn to understand what makes people tick, so to speak. So that's been the big takeaway for me.
Mhm. Yeah, they're very powerful. I know there's quite a few. I think there's 12 or 10. What was your favorite? What's the one that you use the most?
The map is not the territory. And the other one right behind that are dead even is requisite variety. The requisite variety is where the person with the most flexibility is the one that can ultimately guide the conversation, not be in charge of the conversation, but be compatible with more people. And then the map is not the territory. Imagine going to a diner and you've got a menu and you're looking at the menu and oh my goodness, yeah, whatever your favorite food is, it's right there. Literally, it's right there on the menu. And maybe you start salivating because it's right there. It's not really right there on the menu, is it? The menu is the menu, the food's the food, and that will come later. So the map isn't the territory, it's not your experience. It's a way of helping us see how people generalize, delete, and distort what they see in life.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two that pop into my mind.
They're powerful ones, indeed. Indeed. So if you were to explain neuro-linguistic programming to a 5-year-old, how would you explain it?
I would actually pop up ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to help me with that because it's interesting, and I've actually done something very similar. The answer that would come up to me is to be able to say, you have a 5-year-old, remember your friend, and being able to communicate with your friend and talk in a way where your friend respects what you say or hears you. And when that communication doesn't go so well, when you're talking with your friend, wouldn't it be nice to be able to have some words that would change the situation so that you both can restore that friendship?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be my swing at a 5-year-old. I'm a little kinesthetic, so swing, touch, grab, hold, yeah, all that.
All the things. Yeah, I like that. It's a very good analogy and metaphor. Thank you. So how did you even stumble onto NLP? Because I know you've done quite the transitions and going from software engineering to neuro-linguistic programming. I know it's a type of programming. And how did that happen? How that came to be?
My wife, Mary, and I, we were participating years ago with Landmark Education, where I was actually a program leader. And a fellow named Christopher Howard came to town, and Mary went to his weekend and managed to win. He had something, and you roll these dice and you win something. So she won his complete set of media. So his training binders, his DVDs, his CDs, all of this stuff. So we drove around for years listening to all of this, not actually connecting those dots. And so that was the first introduction to neuro-linguistic programming. And that was probably around 2005, 2006. And then in 2007, somebody came into the office that we were working at and attempted to teach us matching and mirroring, rapport, which that was an interesting exercise. So that's the early days. And then I was in a Toastmasters club, and one of my friends in that club says, "Oh my goodness, there's neuro-linguistic programming's coming to town and you can get a discount," and da, 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 da. So, oops. So Mary and I went to that training in 2015. And as they say, the rest is kind of history.
Yes, that's wonderful. So that's almost 10 years. Or is it more?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes I doubt my math skills, but
Here, let's do a quick math test. 1 + 1 is?
I think it's 2.
Oh my goodness. There you go. You are magical with your math skills.
I am.
That's actually debatable because there's a new study that says that 1 + 1 or 2 + 2 doesn't equal what you think it does, because if you round up or round down, there's this whole like breakdown. So it's a kind of interesting theory.
It's actually one of my trick questions in my presentations. So I
nice.
put up on the slide 1 + 1, and then options are A, B, or C. A is 2, B is 3, and C is 1, 0. And what's missing is the context. So in math, 1 + 1 is 2. In Napoleon Hill's mastermind concept, one mind plus one mind creates a third mind. And then if it's binary math, 1 in binary plus 1 in binary is 1, 0 in binary. So anyway, yes, I do tend to have a little fun with that.
I didn't even know that. Look at that.
Constantly learning.
I know that you just mentioned Napoleon Hill. I know that you talk about Napoleon Hill's, how he defines fear, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, there are 6. Napoleon Hill, in his work and his research, determined that there's only 6 fears in life. And all too often, the media cites public speaking as being the number 1 fear. And public speaking is not technically on the list of fears. The number 1 fear is the fear of poverty, which is, you're going to run out of money. Are you going to sleep on a park bench? You're going to go hold up in a tent next to the freeway? What's your method for dealing with poverty? That's the number 1 fear. Criticism is number 2, which is where the public speaking comes in, whether it's you being your own critique, or allowing those in front of you to critique you. Death is actually it's the number 6 one. And the next 2 are fear of old age, fear of loss of love, and fear of ill health. Yes. And then there's
I didn't know any of those. That's fascinating.
That was my first speech in Toastmasters.
Yeah, Toastmasters is a great space to practice your skills. It's great.
Can be.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, Toastmasters is a great way to learn to be in the front of the room. Perhaps
And
one of the best. It's a slow process. Yep.
I know that you love reading Napoleon Hill's book every year. Tell us, like, what does that highlight for you, or what does that remind you of every time you read it?
Can you also tell which book it is? Because he has a lot.
Thank you for that. He does. He's got many books, but the main one that I cite is the Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter how many times one reads something, because it's hundreds of pages long. Every time I go through that book, something new pops up. And the way it ties back into NLP and hypnosis is there's a phrase called autosuggestion, which Napoleon Hill calls is the third step to riches. And as you're reading that third step to riches, that chapter, as he's coming to the end of it, he reaffirms to you, the reader, that this may be the third step, considered to be the most important step. Autosuggestion is another term that can be interchanged for trance or hypnosis. And it's those comments that one makes to themselves, those autosuggestions, those thoughts. And those thoughts are what programs, NLP programming, programs the mind. And the more you say those thoughts either out loud or even just quietly to yourself, you're teaching your mind how you want to be treated. So it's pretty amazing stuff. Ties into autosuggestion, also ties into The Science of Mind, which was written around the same time by Ernest Holmes. Yeah, I can geek out on this stuff for hours.
I know, all these interconnections.
Well, I just actually just started reading Outwitting the Devil. So I'm super into Napoleon Hill right now.
That's one of the few rare books I've read cover to cover. And I say that because I'm gifted at distraction. And that one I managed to find as a PDF and printed each chapter. And then sat down with a highlighter at the coffee shop. And so I read all the way through that book, cover to cover, without picking up a different book. Because that whole concept of Napoleon Hill being able to interview the devil and the devil not being allowed to say anything that wasn't true. Pretty creative. Oh, and that ties us all the way back suddenly to Think and Grow Rich. There's now speculation that Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich with the same premise, that he had never actually met. Oh, now I'm drawing a blank on his name. Carnegie. But either way, 13 steps to riches, the Think and Grow Rich model. It'll stand the test of time. And you're enjoying Outwitting the Devil?
So far, yeah, I am. I find it really interesting that he just kept going for it. Like he didn't have money for whatever, and it will come. And then the money came. And then he didn't have I think it was a publisher, and he didn't have whatever that. And then it just came. Like everything that he needed just showed up right when he needed it. And I think that's a very good lesson in living in faith and not fear, right? He just knew all the time that everything was going to work out in his favor. And that was a good lesson for me. I'm not done with the book yet. I'm like 3 chapters in. I literally just started it. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. You just smiled like a devious smile. I'm guessing it gets better.
It's for me, it was hard to put down. It's one of only, I think, 4 books I've ever read cover to cover. The other is Larry Farwell's book. So, and then a book from a high school.
That one too.
You haven't read that one yet, or you have?
No, I have. I just read that one. Yeah.
Yes. Mesmerizing. I'm reading through it, and all of a sudden somebody's being tortured. And I'm like, what? Had to unwind and go back. And Larry, what? Yeah. He did some work for the CIA overseas, got captured. Anyway,
Yeah, it's interesting.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. I do the Live Hard program, the Andy Frisella Live Hard program, 75 Hard. I started with 75 Hard. Anyways, part of that is you have to read 10 pages of a book every day. And so I like been jamming through books. So it's been really awesome to keep that habit of just getting to read really amazing things. And so I got to read Dr. Larry's book, and then now I'm digging into Napoleon Hill.
Very good. Yeah, Outwitting the Devil. You'll enjoy it.
Thank you. I'm excited about the rest of it.
Rick, I was curious to learn more about how using NLP has changed your life, your universe. And then also when working with clients, what does that look like? And can you share an example?
Yes, for me, the one process that I like the most is the mental and emotional release, which is something Tad James and Wyatt Woodsmall created. In neuro-linguistic programming, we talk about modalities: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. And then being able to look at the sub attributes of those modalities. To that, I would invite you to understand that time is another modality. And then there's attributes or sub attributes about time. What location were you at? Was it, again, using time, you can have it move slow. Rewind that video slowly to that exact point. But being able to have kind of a pocket presentation, if you will, for NLP, working with somebody to just imagine your timeline, float above your timeline out into the past, or you're above the event that you want to let go of anger on. And so I actually did that with a gal in Wilmington, Delaware, a few weeks ago. And she was just, wow, she could feel the shift in her body as she let go of anger. And then it's just amazing. So I enjoy being able to use those kinds of tools with clients, and being able to, somebody shows up as a coaching client and they have what is called a presenting problem. Like, yeah, I'm mad at my neighbor, whatever it happens to be. And then you just go through and ask questions and ask questions. And I say, in order for that conversation to even start, there has to be a level of rapport between myself and the client. And when the magic happens is when I create what I call super rapport. My unconscious mind is now in rapport with that person's unconscious mind, and that person, the client's unconscious mind, the cat gacking up a fur ball, and says, maybe this is what we're looking for. You know, it's in there. The unconscious mind knows what the greater problem is versus the presenting problem. And then once we understand and agree what the greater problem is, we're able to go ahead and do some release work. The parallel is landmark education. You complete your past, put your past back in the past. So find that greater problem, resolve it, put it back in the past, and now you have a clear future. So it's time to create something newly, create a plan, a SMART goal. And once you have your SMART goal, now it's going to get in action. One of my mentors talks about taking massive action. And take that action and then focus. Evaluate where you are. Maybe you need to make some tweaks. And I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I'm having fun.
Yeah, you did. You did, absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible. I practice those tools too, and jumps that I've done on myself and others. It's just so amazing and heartwarming. So it's really cool to hear you share your experiences as well.
It is. And then, so my path includes more than NLP, and that rapport is integral, and creating rapport in such a way that the other person experiences being heard, and that not just heard, but they feel you got them. Because there's active listening where you parrot back what the person said. And then there's empathy where you do your best guess to understand what is the feeling they're getting out of it. And you need to get to that level of skill where you're able to empathize with the person. That empathy is like the golden moment.
Mhm.
And then the unconscious mind is off to the races, and it's just, oh my God. So if you could do that, then you could certainly help me with this. Lots and lots of fun.
The gates open.
Yes.
Very cool. So I know you've supported and helped a lot of people over the years and the decades. How come are you doing a training now and you're shifting into that aspect of mastery?
It's a really great question. And I'd love to give you some, it's just super altruistic or whatever. And I've been waiting years and years for this. No, nothing that's spectacular. There's somebody that I want to be able to train NLP, train that person in NLP. And one of my concerns with most of the NLP training or the people that I've experienced around NLP is if you're going down a path to be a coach or a healer or something like that, fantastic tools, so long as you figure out how to actually use them and apply them. However, if what you're going to do is go back to your 9 to 5, not so great. That's where I've coined it as NLP plus. Going back to my programming days, there was the C programming language. And when I was in C programming language class, the instructor says there's this new thing coming. It's called C plus. So I'm like, NLP plus, baby. Here we are.
I love it.
Yeah.
I saw what you did there and I was like, oh, that's clever. I love it. Yeah.
And so then somebody's going to come along and do NLP sharp or something, I'm sure. But yeah. But that's the driving force behind it. And then being able to infuse in the training a bunch of practical applications of what you're learning, so that at the end of each day, you learn something useful in your life. You can apply anywhere and everywhere. Versus, let me talk about anchoring and anchoring, not to poo-poo it, anchoring is great. It's integral into how to help reprogram the mind. But being able to take those presuppositions and know them and embody them so that you can see people newly, give people their grace, afford people their humanity. That's what it's got me so excited, is seeing an avenue to bring NLP plus to a greater audience and have everybody in that room get value every day.
So are you envisioning having this course as it is now, or are you envisioning multiple courses that you're going to do, or?
So we're doing the NLP plus in July here in Sacramento from July 24th to the 28th. There's some people in my life that would love to be there and they can't. Their schedule's not working out. So that, of course, opened the door to creating another NLP plus training in October. We haven't set the weekend yet for that. My NLP plus course, or the plus course, is 5 days long. So allowing a little bit more flexibility to accomplish those extra items I'm committed to bring value. And we're in the conversation about, if we're going to do NLP plus, we might as well get ready for NLP master practitioner training as well. And that's starting to bubble up into the November timeframe. So pretty exciting.
Incredible. Very exciting. Yeah, indeed. And so when you say day-to-day applications, I know that I've applied NLP outside of coaching for sure, but what do you mean? Give a, how? Are you talking about negotiations? Are we talking about just understanding people better in day-to-day interactions and reading them, or everything?
I'm looking and I'm leaning pretty hard on the communication and being able to support people with the presuppositions as well as some other distinctions that I've learned in life, that when somebody talks about the map is not the territory, we all store things in our mind in a certain way. And many people have it that what they have stored in their mind is the way, it is the reality. And everybody's reality is their version. It's come through their filters and their filtration system. And to be able to realize that and see that newly will help people a great deal. And then there's this other one, the meaning of your communication is the response you get. That one's a little hard to swallow sometimes. So
Good one, though. It's such a good one. I'm still mastering that.
say, pass me the ketchup, and I get back a bottle of mustard. Somehow my communication was not very effective because I didn't get the ketchup I asked for. I got mustard. One can get uptight about it, or one can say, please forgive me. I'm not sure how you were left with, I wanted mustard. See that reddish container? Would you mind handing me that one instead? Somehow my communication didn't get that person's attention and they just reached and grabbed something and handed it to me. So being able to take responsibility. Oh, one of my favorites is cause and effect. As I say, I've been on this path for quite a while, and all too often people will out of hand say, Rick, are you being at cause? Which leads one to think if you could be at cause, you're going to avoid the effect. The way it actually should be interpreted is, are you being responsible, not blame, shame, guilt, any of those things, but just looking at what are the results you're producing and who could you be and how could you behave differently to produce different results. One of my mentors, the late Brian Clemmer, taught me this phrase. It starts with a question: how can you tell what you're committed to? And then people start talking and like, ultimately the answer is the results you're producing. They're often harsh, always fair. So that's how you can tell what somebody's truly committed to. So apparently I was committed to mustard, not ketchup. And yeah, pretty interesting.
Fascinating stuff. Yes.
And as I mentioned, I read Think and Grow Rich. It's a great way to start the year. One of the other books is The Science of Mind, which is equally challenging from a language pattern perspective because it's a little dated. It's back in the 20s and 30s. But so I have it on replay on Audible every once in a while. And the author says you can't escape effect. What? Hit rewind, play that again. It's kind of like Dr. Larry being tortured. Like, what? So you can be responsible and take accountability for what caused that effect. But there will always be an effect.
Yes. I agree. Although I don't always like it.
No. Yeah.
Can I shift gears here a little bit? So I am not a part of the NLP community. So
Okay.
I have questions that maybe other people like me might have. So I was curious if you could explain like how NLP differs from like other forms of therapy or self-improvement techniques or self-care or whatever technique that might be. What's the main differences and why NLP over something else?
Based on my experience with family therapy, and I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers with this comment, so we'll say it anyway. What the heck? So family therapy, there wasn't like an incentive for the family therapist to actually make a difference. talk therapy come in and whatever, but the issues weren't getting resolved. There was some good training that came about it. When you X, I feel, that's nice. NLP came about out of UC Santa Cruz, and they chose to create a modeling system to figure out how to reproduce what somebody else is doing and how to figure out how to model and understand what that person's doing that has this person being effective and this person doing the same thing being less effective or ineffective. And therapy happened to be the model. So Fritz Perls with Gestalt therapy. And then Richard Bandler and John Grinder also worked with, draw a blank on her name. We'll come back to her. The other one that is Milton Erickson, and Milton Erickson was the best person when it came to hypnotherapy. And he had amazing skills at putting a person into trance just with his language patterns. Virginia Satir is the other person. She's a family therapist. And Richard Bandler is exceptionally gifted at pulling apart people's patterns. And so he could see in Virginia's family therapy model that she had certain patterns, and he was able to document them, and apparently surprised her that he was able to discern those. So NLP is at its core, a therapeutic model. And I'm not a licensed therapist, so I use mine from the coaching context. So my skill set is used to move people forward. And one of the other presuppositions, and the presuppositions come from Fritz Perls, Virginia Satir, basically those two, and with a twist of Milton Erickson is my understanding as well, that those presuppositions were derived from the work that those folks were doing. And respect the other person's model of the world. Lost it. Had a thought, gone. Did I answer it well enough, or do we want to dive deeper?
If you want to go deeper, you can, but I'm satisfied with that answer.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty neat stuff.
I think the other question was, why does this work better than other models?
Oh, yeah.
When you study the best of the best, and you model and you document, and you figure out how to teach others what the best of the best are doing, that's where, like Virginia Satir and her family therapy model, meta model, being basically being able to ask questions that get to the heart of the matter versus tell me how you're feeling today. Like, oh, I'm mad. But anyway, I don't mean to be belittling, and I get that sounded probably pretty belittling, but it's my spin on a therapeutic model, talk therapy. And it's often shorter sessions. With the NLP, what we've been taught is to do something called a breakthrough session, where you sit down with a person for 4 to 6 to 8. My longest was about 14 hours, and to really dive deep. And one of my clients says to pull it out of him. Yeah, get in there and pull that thing out of me. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Use their language. Yeah, so that's why it's perhaps quicker, is using the best strategies from the best of the best. And especially when it comes to things like timeline therapy and the phobia model. I was speaking with a fellow who was trained in the military, and the military teaches people to dissociate, kind of step out of your body. If you're in the middle of something, Dr. Larry being tortured, dissociate. And what we've learned in the phobia model is to double dissociate. So you not only do you see yourself, you now see yourself seeing yourself. And that allows you to dissociate, to float further away from the actual situation. And the further you are from the actual situation, the more your feelings about it are lessened.
So it's sum it up a little bit from what I can understand is it's focused on solutions and finding solutions to problems and not wallowing in those problems and like sitting in the problems, focusing on problems. So you focus on the solution, not the problem.
I
Okay.
like that frame much better than what I created. You re-architected it, relayed it out much nicer. Yes, because to go back to autosuggestion, right? If we sit there and keep rehashing and keep saying, repeating to ourselves, my neighbors are this, my neighbors are this. Of course, you're going to even find evidence, confirmation bias. And being able to interrupt that pattern and say, tell me one thing you like about your neighbor. I don't know. No, you find one thing. Find something to be grateful. One of my other mentors is Lee Brower. I was in his training with him. I'm in a program called Strategic Coach. And Lee talks at the beginning of each session about going big, begin in gratitude. And last year was about the third session out of 4 where all of a sudden I realized, oh, who the hell is Lee Brower? And he's in the movie The Secret. And in the movie The Secret, he's talking about gratitude. There's 2 things I remember from the movie The Secret. Don't ask for no bills. I don't want any bills in my mailbox. Well, the mind doesn't understand the negation, so it only delivers you bills. And then the other thing was Lee Brower talking about going down to the beach and picking up a rock and have this gratitude rock where it's in your pocket and you touch it and you're just instantly anchored to being in gratitude. So lo and behold, the guy from The Secret, the part with the gratitude rock is the guy that's been teaching me last year, and I get to go see him again in a couple of weeks.
Amazing. I didn't know that. Learning something new every day.
Yeah, there's all kinds of neat stuff to learn.
I like those nuggets from that movie as well. That's 2 of the major takeaways I took from that as well, or that I can remember off the top of my head. I have some more NLP for Dummies questions.
Oh, please.
I was just curious to know about what are like some of the common issues or challenges that NLP can help address. And then if you can give us, maybe just a vague story about how that has helped somebody make a significant change in their life. I don't need names or dates or specific places, just in general.
I think the bigger outcome from that, one that I like the most is the anxiety model. People that worry too much, they're anxious about something that hasn't happened or may never happen. And what we work people through is a version using timeline therapy to have them envision what would a successful outcome look like. And by envisioning that successful outcome, we can now install that in their mind and have them envision that successful outcome, go out into the future to 15 minutes past the successful achievement of that outcome. How do you feel now? And all of a sudden, it's gone. I used that with one of my dear friends. And when COVID hit, Dr. Matt made parts of those recordings available for free. Like, the world needs this. Let's give it to them. So his book on mental and emotional release was made available, as well as the recordings for basically doing the anxiety release. So it was pretty useful. That one, so that's my answer. It's one of my favorites. It makes a nice release, and it's pretty quick and easy. What's the next?
Is there a specific example of that helping somebody that you can think of, that a client or yourself?
Oh
Or
yeah,
can you give us a specific example?
my very dear friend, he tends to like to overthink or over worry. And being able to walk him through the anxiety model and teach it to him in such a way that anytime he's feeling anxious, he can apply it himself, and to be able to float out into the future 15 minutes past the successful completion of that event. I actually used this with my son as well a couple of years ago. He was a little concerned about the situation in his life. Just briefly explained, in history books, timelines are laid out left to right. Imagine, if you will, that you have the same thing in your life. You have a timeline. And what would it look like for the successful completion of this thing you're facing? My son is gifted at presenting me with forks in the road. So he says, it could go this way or it could go that way. Okay, let's pick one of them and do one, and let's pick the other one and then do the next one. And he instantly felt a sense of relief. So he's able to put that nervousness, that anxiousness away. There's two. Another one that I like. So we talk about anchoring and being able to bring about a physiological state, a feeling in your body. And one of the anchor, so often people are talking about touching your knuckle or pinching fingers or things like that. But if you're driving or you're doing something that you need a little bit less obvious that you're installing or firing off this anchor, tugging on an ear gently. Like, oh, can you remember a time when you were at peace, nice and calm and centered? Can you remember a specific time? Go back to that time now. And as you're experiencing that time now, as you're just about to the peak, go ahead and just gently squeeze your ear away. And then now, can you remember another time, a specific time where you felt genuinely at peace and at ease and calm? Go back to that specific time now. And as you feel that calmness, gently squeeze your ear away. So that creates an anchor. Now you're driving down the road and somebody says something you don't like. I can go back to at peace and at ease and calm. Just by doing that. That's one of my favorites to teach people.
I love that one. And I think Cyndee would really like the Ring of Fire, or it's similar, akin to the Superwoman pose, where you step into the ring and then you anchor all these feel-good feelings. And it's fun. It's really fun to do with people too.
Yes.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing more about that one.
I think you'll like it. So Rick, tell us who should come to your NLP class and how do they find you? How do they sign up and all those things?
Two ways to get there. One is theamazingrick.com. So at the top of that landing page, there's information about NLP Plus. Or there's NLP Plus spelt out, and the letters NLP, the word plus, and the word plus.com. And so there's information about the course available on that website, and people can check out the available dates that are coming up here in July and register or not. And then the people who should do it are basically people who would love to improve their communication skills. Anybody struggling with communicating with a mate, a business partner, a boss, kids, all of that. And people who are interested in coaching or maybe even licensed therapists. It's my understanding that you may go through a training program in social work or therapy, but not necessarily receive a very valid toolkit. Yeah, it was interesting. I can teach people about mental and emotional release, but I can't use that in a therapeutic environment. I can use that in coaching. I can train a therapist, but I'm not one.
That's curious. It is what it is right now. And we'll put the links in the description of the episode as well. So
Nice, thank you.
Of course.
Awesome. And with that, I one last thing. I actually did ask ChatGPT to explain neuro-linguistic programming to a 5-year-old. Do you want to know what it says?
Oh, I'd love to hear it, please.
Okay. So the adult says, "Hey there, have you ever noticed how when you feel happy, you do certain things like smiling or skipping around?" Kid says, "Yes." The adult says, "And when you're sad, you might do different things like frowning or being quiet?" Kid, uh-huh. Adult, neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, is like a magic trick for your brain. It helps people feel better and do better by changing how they think and talk to themselves. The kid, like magic? The adult, imagine you have a toy that sometimes gets stuck and doesn't work right. You can learn some tricks to fix it and make it work again. NLP is like learning tricks to help your brain work better so you can be happier and do things you want to do. Kid, how do you do that? Adult, it's like playing a game where you change the way you think about things. For example, if you're scared of the dark, you can imagine the dark as a cozy blanket that keeps you safe. Or if you're nervous about trying something new, you can think about it as an exciting adventure. Kid, so it's like pretending in my mind? Adult, exactly. It's like using your imagination to make yourself feel better and do better. And with practice, you will get really good at it. Just learning to ride a bike or draw a picture. Kid, that sounds fun. Adult, it is. And that's what neuro-linguistic programming is all about, helping people use their brains in the best way possible, like brain magic. How did ChatGPT do summing that up?
I think it's very nice. And I have a friend coming over who's a psychiatrist, and I'll go through and do a very similar exercise with him. We talk about the strangest of subjects. Like I jokingly say I can bend over to tie my shoes and forget why I bent over. And he instantly says, "Well, that's because you didn't take it from short-term memory to long-term memory." And then we're off to the races. And I go, "Okay, ChatGPT, explain to me memory, human memory. How does that work?" And then it gives me something targeted at arbitrary age. And then I go, "Explain that to a 5-year-old. Explain that to a 10th grader. Explain that to my buddy, the psychiatrist." Totally different language patterns throughout. So it's so much fun. I can't get enough of ChatGPT. I get to do a little dog and pony in Stowe, Vermont this coming week.
Awesome. So thank you so much again for being here, Rick. We really appreciate it. And thank you for the listeners for joining us this week. Please can subscribe on all platforms, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Rick, do you want to tell people where they can find you on social media?
Social media, I'm on Facebook, and I'm definitely on LinkedIn. And there's most likely links to that from theamazingrick.com.
Awesome. And you could follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Uncensored Journey. You can follow me at The Worth Warrior, and you can find Gabriela at phoenixmedicine.me for more links to all social media platforms, Sorry. Okay. And we'll see you next week. Have a great week. Bye.